Welcome back to Your World. I am your host, Mwikali. Thank you, Winnie, for holding it down. And today, being a Mindful Monday, we are talking all things men. And we're talking about breaking the silence. And the question we have for you today is, why is it that men actually do suffer in silence? That means we've come to the realization that has been happening a lot. And we are opening up the conversations today to be like, what is it? What can we do? What can we do better? If there's something that's already being done, what more can we do? And we had a panel, we talked about men going to hospital and how difficult that has been, or it still is, and how we depend on our female counterparts to bring back health results. I don't know. That sounds very career, but you need to be able to step out as a man and do that. It's work in progress for sure. We also looked at a man when it comes to relationships and their role in society and family. In this particular panel, we'll be talking about finances, mental health, and relationships all intertwined. And I'd like to introduce my panel today. And I will start with our counseling psychologist. We have Kagondu Jr. Welcome to the show.
Asante sana.
Great. And I know you did this earlier, but we're just going to... Simon Bevy is still here with us. Thank you so much for joining us. And we also have the gentleman who has something very interesting that we never thought that would ever exist, who gossips about money. And to think that we always talk about it and, we never put a name to it. We have Amos in the building. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
And before we get into the conversations of finances and, mental health and relationships, I'd like to find out, Winnie, what the conversations that are happening. Do you have questions on social media today about this conversation?
I mean, listen, I'm actually just sifting through and getting to understand what exactly are people saying, because again, like we said, the question that we're asking you today is very simple. Why do some men prefer to suffer in silence, and how can we create that safe environment? But also the question that I asked you earlier on, and that is, what was your first initiation, literally, towards the term a man, and has that shifted your perspective today, and has that, formed the kind of a man that you are today? A number of you have a lot to say. I'm actually having issues trying to understand which one do I go through first. But there's one who actually says, the first time I came across the term a man was when my dad died, and I was not allowed to actually cry during the funeral. And that has affected me so much so that now I am not able to even express myself, because a man should not cry. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's deep.
That's deep,
That's
right?
really deep.
And I just want to understand it, and especially from Kagondu, mental health, and then I'll read more, from our side. That whole aspect about, you're grieving, but you're not supposed to grieve because you're a man. What does that really do? Before I read more of the feedback.
Yeah, it's a very interesting space to be in, especially when you talk about matters to do with grief. Mm-hmm. And like he's saying, at times we are forced to postpone the grieving process, mm-hmm. right? So that we can show up as men. And I remember what Sam Bevy mentioned, that men, it's all about having that character. And the world has shown us, we have been socialized, we've been conditioned in a certain way, mm-hmm. that you have to be very strong. And in an ideal situation whereby you have lost a loved one, then you have to put aside yourself in the name of supporting the other people. Mm-hmm. But eventually, this will catch up with you, and this is where you find that most of our men mm-hmm. are really ailing. They get into addiction, talk about the recorrectional centers, because in a way, they didn't do it on time. Mm-hmm. So they say time heals, but it's not even about the time. It's what you do, and as a man, you need to do something in that regard.
I see that.
Yes.
I see that. All right, and Mwikali, I know your conversation, you're pumped up for the conversation, but just two more, and then we go into the conversation with Mwikali. The question again, like I said, that we're asking is why do men prefer to suffer in silence? Steve Roxy, this is on Facebook, says, because we are men. Okay. And then Stephen Jeruke says, because it's our nature of perseverance. And then... Okay, I think Mwikali, you read this. Elias Nesh, who said, watambia kinana ni sasa na ndio wanaume kungangana tu. Okay, and then Sheila Kandie says, juu wanaona aibu ama ni kama watachekwa, so wanaamua kuvumilia kimwanaume. And then there's one, citizen Shadrach Muthusi Kivuya. Hey! Mwikali, usi kazini yako. Says, ndume ni ya kuchinjwa.
Why?
Yeah, I'm just going to pause it here.
Why?
Throw it back to you, because
Okay,
what?
thank you, Winnie. I think there's so many questions that have come up when it comes to men and having these kinds of conversations, like open conversations. And I'd just like to touch on money a bit. When guys meet for, say, golf, there will be conversations around deals. You know, there'll be conversations. Probably we don't talk about how probably we are suffering, but when we go for chamas as women, we are at the salon. Most of the times we don't talk about, now wananilipa 1 million. Unajua wananilipa 1 million. It's shrouded. Somehow we don't want to show off as women. Somehow as women it's a conversation that is not as open or doesn't happen as much as it should. But when it comes to the relationship that men have with money, what they have, how they use it, consultations around the same, being okay to be questioned about the decisions that they make, what would you say, Amos, being an expert on this field of money, the relationship that men have with money?
Well, it's very accurate because let's go with data. So assuming I'm seeing 100 men for one-on-one in 6 months, 100 clients, 80 of them will be women because they're proactive. For men, we have this attitude of, I got this. I know what I'm doing. I'll figure it out. Yeah. Until now, everything has hit the roof. And I have a habit of every time I sit with men, the first 10, 15 minutes, I can tell there's a distress call. Either the guy is being auctioned, bibi amepotea. I mean, bills are all over. And when a man tells you, let's talk, very few of them are proactive. So they come when everything has hit, even rock bottom. And it's quite unfortunate because I feel like men, we've allowed what we can provide define who we are.
Ooh, that is true.
So we've lost our identity. So if I cannot hang out with my two friends, if I feel like they're going to play golf and I know there's some fee they're going to pay, so instead of I telling them I don't have the money, what will I do? I'll tell them I'm too busy. Okay? And that is why you'll find we are now branded as liars. Because again, the people who we provide for, we've never taught them, like you said, vulnerability. Yes. So that's why you'll find a lot of men will lie to their wives. Yeah, they will be in denial. They will borrow for consumption. Yeah. So it's a whole crisis with men. It's a very big crisis, especially if I sit, the way you have, it's good that he does counseling. I said something called financial therapy. Yeah. Where you come to my office, it's you and me. I used to think I need tissues for women only.
Even the men?
Now the men are using the tissues. Because they've never gotten to a place where they are vulnerable. You're always, with fists, ready for fight. But we've never sat down to ask ourselves, is what we're doing sustainable? So, and remember, I'll tell you what, and the other reason why we do not even speak is because our mistakes are more costly than anybody else's. Okay. They are more shameful than anybody else's. You look at our society. You've seen two young people trending. I don't want to mention their names. One is a man, the other one is a lady.
Yes.
Who has been bashed the most? In fact, the question is, who does he go and talk to?
Yeah, absolutely.
You understand?
Yeah.
I teased guys, I think 2 years ago on TikTok, and I told men, just come as you are. We'll share a cup of tea, just carry 200 shillings.
Yeah.
Within hours, I did not have capacity. I had to change location. Over 300 men showed up.
With their 200 bobs.
With their 200 bobs.
Ready to have a conversation.
Ready to have a conversation. And I was so humble. Now we are doing it frequently because they don't have anywhere else to go.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So there is a space right there, and I like that you created that.
Yes.
There's something else that I picked up from your conversation right now is that women are involved, and that's why I say there's a correlation when it comes to men and money. And I think this I'm going to throw to the two of you because, say this world was full of men with all of the money, would it make you happy? Would it be okay to have all the money and there are no women in here? Who would you impress? Who are you wooing? Subaru ikigonga hivi. the latest outfit you're wearing, the latest car you're wearing it. Does it matter if a woman is not involved?
Well, of course, we do a lot of things for the ladies as well. I think that's just the psychology of a man, for your wife and for others as well. And part of it is expectation. You ladies say, my money is my money. And then you say, our money is for both of us. Huh? So really there's a lot of pressure. But I wanted to add something there, the psychology of men, of money. For men, money is power. When they don't have money, they feel powerless. I can't provide for my family. I can't play my responsibilities. I can't take the lady out. All of that. They feel powerless. For ladies, money is not power. Money is actually security. So they feel like I'm not secure how tomorrow is going to look like or about my relationship because my man doesn't have money. So tomorrow I don't know how it's going to look like. So then to men, when they don't have money, they're feeling really bad about themselves. So it affects who they are. For the lady, it's worrying about the future. So I think we need to redefine strength. And you talked about being strong.
Absolutely.
That strength is also the ability to be vulnerable. It takes a lot more strength to be vulnerable than not. And so, kujikaza kiume na kufa kikondo, as we said earlier, doesn't make you strong, really. In some cases, it makes you weak.
Yeah.
That you don't have the courage to speak about what you're going through. If we redefine strength, then we are going to get men to a better place. Then you could be able to tell your woman, I don't have money today, and that's okay. And then the ladies need to realize that if a man doesn't have the money now, it doesn't mean he won't have it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't necessarily fully define him as a man. It's just a bad time. I was very shocked, a quick one,
Yes.
that during COVID, a few men, some of them my friends, were left by their ladies in a relationship because their business collapsed.
Yeah.
Yet when their business were doing well, the men were there, the women were there. When now it collapsed and they had supported them, they left. I don't think that's fair. I think part of fairness is saying we are working this out together. And of course, that doesn't give permission to men to be lazy. It means we all work for this, but we support each other, and let's not let money define manhood or even femininity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And I see you're burning with Santi Seka Gondo. Please go ahead.
Yes, I want to pick it from there, and especially where the men were left by their ladies because they didn't have the money, all right? And this is just a confirmation that life is very transactional. Every other relationship that we have, every other encounter that we have with each other, it's quite transactional. And this is where we get to appreciate the space of money. Money being the catalyst that makes, things to move around. And in fact, they say, once man made the money, eventually the money made the man mad, all right? And this tells you that whenever we don't have the currency for that transaction, then it's not a very comfortable space to be in. And this is why you find that most of the men out there, out of what we are seeing, the character and also the image, how they perceive the social status, how they are taken to be, it's quite interesting, especially if your wallet is not loaded. And this is one of the contributing factors to the many issues that men are facing, and especially where they have to show up and more so provide, especially for those who are around them. So when you talk about relationships, how we interact with each other, and of course, how we relate with the money, it's good that we get to appreciate that it's quite transactional. And looking at it, we have to really be very mindful as men in the house.
Absolutely. When we were talking to the audience earlier, the thing that came up was I was a man. I was told I was a man at this age. I went through circumcision. There was a whole thing. They took it was tough. I was told I'm a man. I was told to take over the house even when dad is not around. Then you grow up, you become a husband. Then you become head of the home. And I'd like to understand what that actually means, because it is different for different people, but the pressure that comes with that, and even when you go to the good book, it says a good man will leave an inheritance for the children of their children. So it's also responsibility of leading in terms of a vision, and there's also responsibility of leading when it comes to that inheritance, which then doubles up as money. Do we have that conversation? Are we doing something as leaders and experts in your different fields? Are you actively doing that to make sure that you pass it on to them, and maybe we'll come back to maybe Winnie later to just find out from the audience if they personally have someone they can go to have these conversations with. But over to you.
Pretty nice. And I like it when you talk about what we leave for our families.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is that most of the men out there are not really prepared to be men enough. All right? And,
Good one. I
all
saw
right?
that.
Especially in a space whereby we didn't have somebody to walk with us, to guide us, and show us the way.
Yeah.
Right? Unfortunately, I find that most of the men that I've met, that have supported, there's that inner child in them, really wounded, especially in a space whereby, as they were growing up, there were a lot of, say, traumatic encounters. They were really hurt in different spaces. And out of that, you find that when we grow up, including my friends here, we actually adults, all right?
Yes.
But we are babies, boys, right, in grown-up men bodysuit, all right?
Yeah.
Meaning that we are still alien within. Okay, and this is why when I get to a point whereby there's a lot of expectations in terms of how I should, take care of my family, take care of the people around me, at times it can be confusing because that was never instilled in me. So there's a lot of trial and error. Okay, and this is why we find ourselves making a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And like my friend is saying, the mistakes can be very costly, and this ends up hurting you to the core, right? So this is why we are creating a good space, and I'm very happy with what we are doing, ensuring that we provide a space whereby men can be able to talk and share on the issues that they face. I've done a book called Becoming a Man.
Yes.
And the motivation behind doing the book was the many clients who were sent to us, especially from high schools. And we're able to pick that one of the main underlying issues, it was the absent fathers. All right? Telling you that these young men, these boys, they are growing up without a role model. Even if they are there, they might be there physically, but emotionally, they are not in touch. Telling you that there's a very big gap when it comes to how we are molded or even mentored. And this is why it's very important that we have this particular conversation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe two things I would say there. The headship, the leadership in the home, redefining that, and then the inheritance as well. Let me start with the inheritance. And I like what you say about the wounded warrior. I think it's one of, as we do Man Enough, that's the number one topic. People say, that one touched me the most. I needed to deal with issues within. But on to inheritance. Greater than what you leave for your family is what you leave in them.
Yeah.
The values you train them. I'm training my son to be able to make his own money and manage his money well. If I don't train him that, even if I give him houses, he's going to squander them. So part of inheritance is not just the money you leave for them, it's the values you leave in them so that they can find their own money. Though, of course, it's a plus. It's a plus, guys, if we leave the younger ones here, if we leave you some property. But if we don't give you the value to handle the property, then once we die, the money will go to the public trustee because you're fighting over it. But then secondly, headship. Being a leader doesn't mean you have all the solutions or even you have all the money. Statistics show in town right now in Nairobi, between 25 and 34 years of age, women are earning more than men. Yeah, then the man is going to be the leader of the relationship. And if we don't see the man as just a money giver and a money handler and all of that, we don't stop seeing men as wanaume ni pesa, then those men are not going to marry those women at that point. We need to begin to realize leadership means I facilitate the unit that I lead. Absolutely. And sometimes I've had times in my marriage where, because I was back in school, then my wife was the one working and bringing in the money. But I was facilitating as a leader, how the home is going. It didn't make me less of a man. Absolutely. Less of a man, rather. Because of the money. I was facilitating. I didn't have all the solutions, but I facilitated to make sure my family is okay as I do other things. So redefining headship and leadership so that you don't have to have all the money to be the leader. You just need to have the wisdom to facilitate your family.
Absolutely. Do you think, Amos, that these conversations that you're having with maybe individuals who come in, men to be specific, to come in and they're like, before I came to you, this is where I was at, this is where I'm at. Do you then probably recommend that they have these conversations with their wives present? If they're dating, if they're married, does it help if we are on the same page in terms of money and opening up the conversation where I need to find out, M-Pesa, it's gone to Angoa. Why has it gone? What is it doing? You know, do you recommend that?
You want men to be killed in the...
You know, I don't know how you can put that in caps, especially when you say, just to on what you've just said. It's not just about what you're living for them. It's about what you're living in them. Because what that does, it puts in a sense of ownership comparing to a sense of entitlement. So you'll find that now whatever, if I have built something on my own, I tend to respect it more than if I never had any part in it. And back to your question, I love this conversation because it's really interconnected. You know, being a counseling psychologist, you realize that there are traumas. You know, there are financial traumas as well. And so now we have a brand of men who inherited cultures from broken people.
Yes.
You understand? So by the time you understand that there is a trauma here, I mean, time has gone. So even as men come, whether they are married or not, one of the things that we do is self-audit. You have to ask yourself, do I have traumas? Is it a money personality? Is it a culture that I've always taken up? It's a bad culture, but I think I've adopted it as a truth.
Yeah.
Because trust you me, there are men we sit with and you're like, they tell you something they've done and they see absolutely nothing wrong. To them, this is how we do things. We're like, dude, hold on. Hold on. And it becomes a way of life. They normally say if you've grown up in a sewage area, you never smell this.
That's
the
true.
sewer. Like,
Yeah.
it stops smelling.
Yeah.
So we have to be very intentional. So even before they come with their spouses, the most important person is who? Is the man.
Yes.
Because the moment, I might be saying something contradicting right now. They say, when you empower a woman, you have empowered the whole society.
Yes.
But what if a man was to take his rightful place? Everything would change. And that is why you'll find everything we find in our society, behind it is a broken man. And behind that broken man is a broken wife, is a broken family, is a broken... Like, we break everything. You understand? But if you are to be able to do a self-audit, let me ask myself, I'm supporting all these people. Let me start to question sustainability.
Yes.
If I drop dead right now, none of them will be buried with me, isn't it? So I need to start empowering them. I need to start putting things in them so that by the time I am gone, it's no longer about, Amos died, we stopped schooling. Are we together? And this is why now most men, and I encourage a lot of men, like, find a brotherhood. Find someone who will call you out of your nonsense. Are we together?
Yeah.
You're used to doing so many things. Nobody ever asks you, hey, Mweshimiwa, they call you Mweshimiwa because you're paying bills.
Yeah.
But ask them, boss, why don't you today don't pay for something? Direct it somewhere else. And that is where now we begin to have meaningful conversations. Because I don't feel like most of us are having it. Do a self-audit.
Yeah.
That would really go a long way so that you start even analyzing the relationships you have.
Absolutely. Winnie, we are at your end right now and we're having very, very interesting conversations because as men, are you okay? Are you open to have those difficult money conversations, relationship conversations? Because we're moving around, we're walking around in relationships, not talking to our partners because we demand the conversation because we talk. So it's also for us to understand as women that this is how they behave.
Exactly.
This is the telltale signs that they are reaching out. That
Let me tell you. You see, the thing is, most of us, and I don't know whether we discussed this with you some time back, and we were saying sometimes we get into relationships thinking this person will change and change in all aspects: money, how they behave, how they eat, where they put their socks, all those things. But before you get into that relationship, first of all, understand who you're getting into that relationship with. Then once you understand your person, you also know how to navigate such conversations, including money, including, traumas and all those things. And I think what, all of them have actually mentioned is some sort of trauma in one way or the other, whether it's like mental health, money, because most of us when we were growing up, we were told money is evil. So what are those ones who have it, they got it the wrong way. So most of us actually grew knowing money is evil, you know,
Yes.
and then later on we suffer and say, wale wako na pesa ni Illuminati. Anyway, but just to go through what people are saying online and also open the floor, because I know most of you have questions as far as money is concerned and all those things. There's someone who actually put a very interesting comment here. This is Admiro, based on the question that we asked, yeah? Why is it that men choose to suffer in silence? So, Anajita Admiro Jaden says, heri kujikalisha, kamkutano ujieleze shida na at the same time unajitafutia solutions kuliko kuelezea wenzio shida zako ambazo baadaye itakuwa story paukwa pakawa kijiji mzima kila kunapokucha kila siku. And then Honorable Moses Ondieki says that's our nature. Isaac Wafula says they were created like that. And then someone says, who do you talk to? Who do you trust? Let me just get that straight. One sec. Steve Ndungu, who says, who can they trust and who's going to listen? I think the same question that was asked earlier. And then Imran Almeida says, when a crocodile sheds tears, his tears are washed out by water. When a man sheds tears, the world will never care about his pains, but everyone will still demand to be taken care of and treated well. And no one cares about you, the man. The only one who knows and sees a man's tears is God. That's very deep.
Yeah, that's very deep.
That's very deep. And then another one says, Kelvin Ngeno says, Taki kuachwa, I'd rather struggle to be okay. And then there's one who says, John Keshi Washira, who says, Manchester City na nyongwa, tulieni kwanza. But right about now, let me open the flow. Any question about City? Hey. Any question? Anyone has a question on money? Yes? Or not money peke yake? Psychologist, trauma. And also, Pasti, I'd pose this to you on the church. Because the majority of the times we see the church as a safe space where, you know, we can run to, really. But has that created that space then for men? And especially in churches, places of worship, not just churches. But has it created safe spaces for men to talk to? But before that, your name, okay? Keep your question brief.
Thank you. I have a very simple question. And to our speakers, you have a lot to do concerning money and the relationship in our generation. Because the strength of a man in our generation is measured by the wallet. Hata useme nini, hata ufanye nini, saizi kuna kitu inatembea TikTok. Inasema hata ukule jugu shamba mzima. Nguvu za kiume ni pesa. So you find that to us young generation, we have no... To us young men, like me, I'm growing young person, we have no money. And yet, tunataka kupewa responsibilities zenye hatuwezani nazo. So, how can we overcome such? And to some of us, tumeenda to extend, tushaingia already kwa hizo responsibilities. But tunapata tunangangana more than what we can provide. Because, for example, uli approach a girl akiwa high school. Akaenda university, akajua style ya nywele ya 20,000.
Tereren.
So, you don't want to lose her to go. Lakini anakuambia jamani, huko nywele ni 25,000. Wewe hiyo 25, even in a month, ni shida kupata. So, kindly help the young people. We are going through a lot.
Tumefika hapo.
And they say, if you don't, another man will.
Yeah.
Anybody else who has a question on money? Nyinyi mmenyamaza sana. Okay, let me give you my question on either of the conversation.
My name is Frederick Serebwa. My question goes to Amos. So, Amos, you know, women, as Mheshimiwa said about finances, you know, what brings hii maneno yote, it's just social media. So how can we go about social media? Because this social media, I can say Amos wearing good shirts, wearing good viatu, wherever. Alafu bibi yake pia ako vizuri, anawea vizuri. So that social media will interfere with my marriage or my partners. Because
Okay.
now my partner will tell me, you know what, I want that dress the wife to Amos is wearing. Now, how can I go with the wife for Amos? And Amos, unapata, anafanya nini? Anawea like $20. And I can only afford $10. Now the burden in my house, it will start from there. We'll not talk, we'll not do any of the things as the way you are doing. So the question is for Amos, financially, how can we come out with, about this issue?
The question on growing wealth. Okay. Growing wealth.
My name is Chris Kiari. Yangu ni mwanzo tuliambiwa kwamba sisi ndio the head, sisi ndio tuna provide kutoka utotoni. And so that's why unaona kwamba maybe hata saa zingine umegonjeka uko hospitalini 1 month, lakini bibi na watoto wakikutembelea wanakuulizani aje, tujalipa nyumba, tujanini. Because hata hao wana expect. Inafanyika hivyo kwa nini? Kwa sababu sisi wanaume pia tumekata one side tumekata kuempower the ladies. Kwa sababu tunaogopa. Labda hata nikimpeleka shule atachukuliwa, vitu kama hizo. Na sasa inaleta shida kwa sababu hawa wenyewe wanakuangalia pale juu. So hata kuwa mgonjwa unaexpectiwa kwamba wewe ndio utalipa nyumba ama fanya vitu zingine. So nafikiria ni vizuri tugawane hizo responsibilities. Na hiyo imaanishi wewe bado sio man. Utakuwa bado wewe ni man.
Okay. Okay. I think tujibu kwanza ama tuchukue swali zingine.
Okay, yeah. Shika. It's a lot.
Let's answer first and then we'll come back.
Okay, and then Amos atuambie kule walinunua hiyo dress.
Hiyo nguo ya dola hata si Kenya shillings.
Unajua jamaa sasa ananianika kwa bibi
Tuambie ukweli.
But it's good to be honest. I think a good reverend is here, and I'm sure having handled premarital counseling, for me, from where I sit, is that marriage doesn't go wrong. It starts wrong. So if you want to get married, don't rush. I don't know what is this rush. You've seen a young girl, pretty girl, and you know, we want to conquer immediately. Yeah? Sometimes it's also good to look at your resources. And not just the physical, not just the money. You know, even your ability to say no. You know? You have to also to, you know, one of the things that I learned earlier, and I learned this from my kids, there was a time that things were really bad and we scaled down. And I was worried, what do I tell my son? I think that time he was around 7. Yeah. And I keep telling this story. And I was telling him, Papa, we are in this small house for a short time. But after this, we will bounce back. Do you know what he told me? That it's okay, Daddy. It is small, that means we'll be closer to each other.
Oh.
And that thing set me free. And it taught me how to explain to people or how to be vulnerable with even people who are under your leadership. That way, it reduces the burden. He shared about guys who are being left when they lose their jobs. Could it be that when you had the money, you are making all the decisions yourself? So these people are waiting for, ngoja hata mimi nipate nini? It happens.
Yes, it does.
It happens. For me, I think the best financial advice I've gotten from a man, it was a man who was playing golf. I am still learning, but this guy was quite elderly. He's retired, but his wife is still working. And he was like, this woman keeps sending me money. So I'm like, what woman? He's like, my wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, then he was like, yeah, it's end month. So I was like, okay, so why are you complaining if your wife is sending you money? Mm-hmm. Then he told me, young man, sit down. Do you want to know the meaning of freedom? So I was like, okay, tell me. He told me when he got married, his wife was in college that time. So what was he doing? He was on providing everything.
Yeah.
And because he was a young banker, he started being sent to towns and sometimes outside the country. So because those days it was the signatory, he took his wife, put her as a signatory to his account. Then he told her, I'll be gone for 3 months. The money is there, pay rent, do everything you have to do. Many years later, the guy just used to take what he needs. The wife managed the finances, went back to school, got a job. Now from where she's in a very senior position, almost to retire. But every month, she still sends the guy an allowance. All the goals they discussed, he's like, you know me, I don't have that discipline. Me, I just need my... And the guy is so free that there are decisions he will be called to approve. But he knew his strength. He knew his weakness. So he was telling me, now this is the meaning of freedom.
Yeah.
Now, if you try, you're doing shopping. Your wife is going shopping when to negotiate kitungu. You're busy asking her. No,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that might work for everyone. But have these conversations of, where is my strength? Okay? As you court, don't rush to bed. You see the problem with our young people? We are all rushing to bed. Are we together? With the best looking one. But we are not having these conversations of, what do you think about money? Okay, what do you think about inheritance? What do you think about black tax?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So the moment you're having this conversation, now it becomes a wider analysis where I don't think I can really marry this person.
Yeah.
It is okay to say no, that I don't feel like we share the same values, but I feel like we are rushing too much. So back to your question, it is okay. It is okay to admire people. You don't know. Since you're in social media, you get offers. Hey, Amos, mention this when you shoot it.
Yeah, ni tag.
And we are getting it almost for free. Yeah. But now, you're under pressure to come and ask, hey, Amos, that's the whole idea. And a case in point, the guy who makes my suits, I'll give a shout out to him if people want. He lives in Kibera. But I told him, rebrand, be going to people's offices, do your measurement.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Solve people's problems. I have longer hands, so I normally get a problem with suits. And that's how he set up his business. But now, because of giving him many clients, sometimes will tell me, I have a suit for you.
Yeah.
You understand? But now in social media, you're thinking, this guy has spent 100,000 shillings. No. So always, again, back to the conversations you have, discuss deeper things, fears. Okay, as couples.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you answered. Hakuna haraka sasa. We had another question from the gentleman there. I think.
Yeah, I don't know that it answers that one, but I like what you said about values. If you go for money, you'll also get pain with it. If you go for values, money may not be there, but eventually the money will come. And I also want to then speak to the ladies who are listening.
Yes, please.
Because sometimes I think the pressure comes from you. And your orientation is, if a man has money, it doesn't matter what they look like or what values they have. I want the money. Yeah. Now, eventually there's going to be pain with it. Of course, many times you may find a man who has money but also has good values. But if your first attraction is money, and money has wings, sometimes may fly because of COVID or something else.
Oh, yes.
Then what are you going to live for? So we need to teach our girls as well, our daughters, that a man is not the summation of a man is not money.
Yeah.
But in the houses of worship, we need these conversations very clearly. As we do premarital counseling, we need to guide people, and we usually do, and not all places of worship. But we need these conversations because that's a place where a lot of people come, and they feel like we want to be trained on values. So as we prepare people to get married, let's have those conversations. If we don't, it's going to be a big deal later in their marriage. But then for the men, we need to create those places of vulnerability. I think it's one of the things we don't do very well in places of worship. Women naturally socialize and get deep in chamas and other places. Men, if you just leave them alone, they're going to talk about Man U and how badly they are doing. You look like Man U. They're going to talk about those things out there, but they'll not get vulnerable. We need to build the culture, right from places of worship to golf courses and to many other places. Build that culture of vulnerability, but also be very frank with each other. Don't lie to a girl by buying her very expensive things and you borrowed the money, then you're setting yourself up. Just say, this is what I can afford. If you can't accept me for who I am, too bad. There are many other girls out there. But if you try to impress, sustaining that impression is going to kill you. Just be yourself and be vulnerable and play at your level.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I've seen a man hire cars because they're going on first dates, second dates. Then you realize it's a full-on relationship now. You cannot continue hiring these cars anymore. But one thing we've agreed is that there's a lot of silence. There's a lot of trauma. And then this leads me to you, Kagondu. Like Amos said earlier, that the women show up. They want to learn. They want to do better. And I think in therapy as well, counseling, women show up. What about the men? What are the statistics like when it comes to men who knock on your door or give you a call and be like, Mimi sina mtu mwingine wa kuongelesha, but I need help. Please, how can you assist?
I have a friend who says something must kill.
Amen. Kimbuzi, loudly.
Okay, but unfortunately, I have very few clients who are men, and men in this case, who come for support. And I've seen this because of how we are built up, okay? And if there is any who is walking into the therapy room, then...
Okay, let's try sort your mic fast, but then we can have... oh, there you go. Okay, I don't know if that will work. Will that work? Ah, fantastic. Then we need to give the one that's not okay. Fantastic. Okay, there you go. Continue, please.
He's a
Sorry.
good brother. Yeah. And that's how we need to take care of each other.
Absolutely.
So what am I saying? I've seen most of the men who walk into the therapy room, they're actually dragged in by their women. And you understand? Okay.
Yes.
Very few would be willing to come on a volunteering basis, okay? And this tells you that we're in a very interesting space, especially when you talk about men and mental health. I had an occasion where we were interacting with some men from, we had a session in Nyeri County. And I remember that particular encounter, there were 47 cases of suicide. All right? And when we were trying to figure out the numbers between the men and the women, you can imagine the number of women in that particular case. Some will say half, but the truth of the matter is that we only had 3, women out of the 47, okay? Telling you that men end up committing suicide more compared to the women. Why is this so? From the other panel, there's a way that we handle ourselves. They really shared on that. And you find that most men, we have this nature of being machismo. We have to be very aggressive with how we handle issues. In case if it is a lady who is intending to harm themselves, probably watakoroga panado. Okay? But for the one up on top of KCC, because they want the death to be as serious as it can be. Okay, so you find that, yes, women are going to attempt more, but for the men, they complete more compared to, the ladies. And this tells you that we don't sort out support. We don't call out for help. Okay, we tend to keep to ourselves, and especially because of how we tend to look at ourselves, and more so trying to protect the image. Okay, so I'm not going to talk to my friend Bevi, because if I share the issues that I'm going through, then I might look like a weakling. If I go out talking to a therapist, they call me a sissy. All right? So you end up keeping to yourself and really struggling at the end of the day. So if you compare the numbers between men and women, go to the recreational centers, talk about the prisons.
Just put your mic closer.
Okay. When you go to the prisons, like a case scenario, thicker prisons, the number of men, it will be plus 1,000. Okay, but for the women department, it will be somewhere 60 to 70. If you go to the rehabs, okay, the number of men are more compared to the women. Go to the Daily Nation newspaper, obituary, who are more? It will be men, all right? Telling you that men are actually an endangered species. And this is because we don't know how to come out and talk about the issues that we are facing. We don't know how to be vulnerable, especially amongst our people. In case I'm going through an issue, then my spouse, I'm not going to tell them, all right? I tend to keep that off from them. And in case I have some challenges, then I don't have a to-go-to space. So what am I saying? That we have seen men really struggle, and you see our coping mechanisms are quite negative, okay? So you find that whenever I'm facing some issues, I'll take one drink, then eventually the drink is going to take the drink, then unfortunately, the drink is going to take the man at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you find that we are losing so many men at the end of the day, especially because they don't know how to deal with the issues that they are facing on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. How many people in our audience today, just by show of hand, you've gone to counseling? For atakama ulidragiwa, you've gone to individually or because you were going with your partner? Individually. Okay. And there's yes, he did. And you have. Let's get you another mic. That mic is not. That mic is not working. But as we get that mic, I think it's a very important thing that we're talking about because we have a few minutes remaining. But I hope we will get to what do we need to do then, financially, emotionally, spiritually, even physically. Sometimes we let ourselves go. You know what I mean? And I saw a video that you did about that. I saw a video that you did about that. So as we get that...
something I could add
yes.
as we get to Emmanuel. As men, we should never walk alone. Whether you're Man City or Liverpool, we all meet around. We should never walk alone, huh?
A good one.
I think it doesn't matter how strong you are. If you stand alone, you're weak. Yeah. Something is going to push you down. You need other men around you. So I think we should build this culture as men, where you have 2, 3, 4 men that you meet regularly, talk with. You grow a relationship eventually where you can talk about your mental struggles, your other struggles, and this is your team. So never walk alone. I just wanted to say.
Thank you. I think we've gotten the mic. Yes, Emmanuel?
All right. Thank you so much. And those are very good questions, and I think they reflect what's going on within society. I think one of the things that has given me personal freedom is understanding what principles of life are. Now, if you talk to Pastor Mbevi, he probably would share similar sentiments. Like, for example, our lives don't exist for just us. Our lives exist for something greater than us. All right? So we were created with a purpose. The purpose was to, 1, multiply, 2, be fruitful, and 3, for us to rule the earth. And then when God saw that, the man, that there was something missing from the man, he added a helper and a support system and a support structure. All right? So for the man, you need to understand that, okay, God has given you a purpose. The purpose is greater. And when you're getting somebody in your life, then you're looking for somebody who together you can achieve this purpose. All right? So when you think about the helper, we often talk about, or women talk about this, Proverbs 31 woman. Yeah. And oh, I desire to be a Proverbs. Me, I'm a Proverbs 31 woman. But let me tell you, we want a Proverbs 31 woman. But has anyone ever read what the Proverbs 31 woman is? If you actually read about this woman, 1, she rises early. 2, she's faithful, she's pleasant. But 3, this woman is the ultimate hustler. This woman is a businesswoman. She's the one who goes and buys shambas. She takes whatever has been grown in the shamba and sells it, meaning that whatever distorted, ideology we have, that the man is the singular provider of the home, I think that's where the rain starts beating. And I think that rain started beating in the 60s and the 50s, 60s, and 70s. As the man was trying to get back his place after the wars and his place had been taken. So there's a narrative he painted which is now coming to bite him not him, but is coming to bite his descendants in the butt. All right? So the woman thinks that this is the sole whatever of the man, but she does not understand her place too. And it's important for us to now begin to talk about all these holistic things within society so that the man understands, okay, I can be a visionary, but as a CEO, the greatest CEOs depend on the knowledge that the CFO, the CTO, the CIO, the COO give them. All right? So how can I lean also on my wife, her having different talents, her having different personality, her having different perspective? How can I listen to her so that I can make the right decisions for our family. And it's in listening to her that she has trusted me more, and in listening to her that I've made better decisions that are holistic within the relationship. So I think it's about understanding the principle. So as a man, I'll do the best to work on me, to gain vision, to gain purpose, so that I can impact society. But at the same time, I have to understand that my responsibility is to find the person who will be the support system that I can do that. Not just look for any baby girl out there, just because she's cute and everything. No.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. And our time has run out for like maybe, I think, a minute each, if we can try. I know I have only 2, but we're 3. What would be the parting shot, an encouragement maybe? And if there's spaces that are available to you that you can extend to the men here and the men who are watching, please share them.
Let me just be fast. For all men out there, the best way to cheat on death is to invest in the immediate next generation. I have 2 young boys. Between them and myself, there's a whole bunch of young people. Let me invest in them. Let me be a good example to them. Number 2, men, there are seasons. You see, an umbrella is deemed useless when the sun is up. Okay? But when it starts to rain, we begin to look for it. Please prepare for the seasons. Any man I've seen worth his salt has gone through a dip. That season is coming. So just prepare for the same. And then finally, please audit your behavior. Sit down with yourself. Audit yourself. Ask yourself, am I a going concern? Even as an individual.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I would repeat something I said earlier. Mwanaume ni honor, duty, and care.
Honor, duty, and care.
We sit on a 3-legged stool. Honor is your character. Mwanaume ni values. If you don't have clear values and convictions, life is going to push you down. So values, honor, duty, play your responsibilities. Do what you need to do. Sit on your seat. Pull your weight. Be a man who is responsible. First for yourself and then to others. And thirdly is care. Let's care for each other. I would say, because this is February, relationships are built on complementarity. We support each other. I bring my strengths, you bring yours, and we do the dance as we complement each other. And just to invite those who would like to come to the places where then we help men. Enough. We have done now 60,000 men. We'll be glad to have you come and we talk together through this and mentor boys. We're trying to mentor 1 million boys in partnership with many others. 1 million boys by 2030 from last year.
Okay.
I think it's easy to talk about the boy child, but we need to do something. Talk
exactly.
Is cheap, let's invest.
Yes, let's do something about it. Kagondu.
Thank you. I want to build that from the care.
Yes.
And if I need to practice self-care, then that means that I have to empower myself first. All right. For me to support my brother, I have to have supported myself first. So fill your cup fast. And for my brothers who have gone for therapy, it's not a show of weakness.
No.
In fact, that is empowerment. So if you're out there and you feel you're not okay, it's still okay not to be okay, but it's still okay to talk about it. Come to us. We support you. So Mindcare Africa, that's where I practice. Becoming a man, it's a very good tool for every man out there. Ensure that you get a copy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, gentlemen, for being amazing, and for the audience as well. Mwanaume, si wallet peke. Mwanaume ni values, okay? Audit yourself. Are you a growing concern? And also take the time to be vulnerable, because it is strength right there. So be vulnerable today, because you open up spaces, not just for yourself, but for other people as well. And I like that you need to invest in the next generation, because that's how you cheat death. Thank you so much for joining us today on Your World, and for being amazing on my first day. Winnie,
I feel like
Winnie,
I need to come there and say, hey, you did
for allowing me to sit in your home comfortably.
This is your home now.
This
is your home now.
Thank you.
And we also say thank you really to each and everyone of you who came in. Thank you so much for also being the great audience that you are. So tunaenda home better. I hope so. Sindio, tuende therapy.
Tuongee.
Tuongee. Right? Yeah, Wonge Watoke. So special thanks again to your panel this morning. From Rev Baby, Amos, Kagondu. We also have Dr. Okello and Emmanuel as well. Thank you so much for the time. And thank you for also engaging with us online. Let me just read one comment here. I think more or less what Emmanuel said. And they said, I believe in this contemporary world, when it comes to financial capability, it has nothing to do with the gender roles, despite the fact that men should be the sole provider. That is why, as a man, it is important to choose the best woman for yourself who will make your life easy. Yeah?
I think we should have a part 2 of this to really understand what it is as women that we need to do.
Yeah.
What we need to unlearn, relearn,
Yes.
all of that to just make sure that tunaelewana.
Proverbs 31 woman.
Ndio mimi.
Tuamke asubuhi. Absolutely. Yes. Sisi tunaamka
The
mapema.
ultimate hustler.
All right, but on that note, we have to unfortunately end the show here, and I hope that you have been inspired, you have unlearned, and you have relearned, and now, you have that space, safe space. I'm pretty sure you have identified, that safe space for you to go and just talk, okay? It doesn't have to be issues, zile vitu mbaya mbaya, okay? Just go and talk, as men. So thank you so much for being with us. My name is Winnie Lubembe.
And I am Wikali Mary.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow morning on Relationship Tuesday, where you all know we talk about relationships, okay? And tomorrow we'll continue a conversation that we started last week, and that is on jealousy in relationships, especially mother-in-law and their daughters-in-law, okay? But also tomorrow is World Cancer Day, so we'll also have a conversation on the same in terms of, illnesses, diseases, and their strain on relationships. A conversation you do not want to miss. But for now, allow us to say goodbye, God bless, and enjoy the rest of your day. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Adios.